Hey everyone, welcome back to Iron Bay Research. This is episode 9.
Last week we talked a little bit about more about our business influences because we realized that we actually had a lot and we didn't dive into them. And we wanted to save an episode for a business that Bryce's dad, friends, and his mom was also a part of.
Yes.
And they started it on their own. And it was at a pretty formidable age for you, I assume, when this business was going on. So we'll send it over to Bryce to tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So
I guess maybe I can ask you a question to start it off.
Sure.
I guess how old were you when your parents started the business? Did they say like, hey, we're going to do this thing? Or was it until after that it had already been started and going that you guys realized?
Yeah. So it was, my dad he'd done like 22 years in the military. He was in special forces and then does some other jobs in there as well. And then when he got out, he just, what a lot of military guys did, they just kind of in a weird limbo because a lot of those jobs don't translate.
Yeah.
And so him and a lot of his coworkers had started they wanted to start a contracting company. And government contracting is where a lot of times if the government doesn't want to do a specific task, they'll just offload that task to the private markets.
Right.
And so that's what they were going to do. And so they started a company. It was called Silverback 7 because there were 7 of them, kind of a cool name. And my dad was one of the co-founders. So I don't really, the details get a little fuzzy.
Sure.
He didn't really talk too much about it. But him and 7 others all, and obviously my parents were still married at this point in time. So it was my mom too. They put in cash and started up a company. And they started doing a couple of the first contracts where they would like train the cops and FBI on surveillance. And it was very like niche training that they had all learned from the time in the military. And then it graduated from there. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think it was like middle school when they started that.
Right. Yeah. Sure. And at any point in time, did your parents have conversations with you about the workings of the business, or do you remember it being a stressful time for your family? Anything along those lines?
It was weird because that was a time. I mean, that was during also the financial crisis of 2008.
Oh, yeah. When they started that.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And so on top of that, I know they were losing their shirts on a condo in Florida.
Okay.
They were also in some real estate, a house. So they did a really good job of insulating us. And I think your parents did too, insulating what was going on. Because like I look back and it's like, holy shit, it was really stressful. But no, it wasn't ever really. I mean, I'm sure there was. It might have been a long time ago, but it wasn't like a big thing. It was like they didn't like sit us down.
So you were age-wise, you were in high school when they started the business. You were at the beginning of high school.
Yeah, it was like
so that's like 8th grade, 9th grade.
Yeah. Okay. So we didn't really talk too much about it.
Okay.
But I remember early on, like interacting. Because obviously my dad was home more instead of being employed. So and my older sister actually worked at the company for a little bit, but she didn't really talk too much about it either. Mm-hmm. And then my mom worked there too.
Do you think watching your parents found a business in that way modeled for you entrepreneurship or a certain mindset? Did that have any effect on you at that time?
I think now that I'm thinking about it, I think almost the nonchalantness of it definitely made it not intimidating to start.
Okay,
you know what I mean? Because it was never like a big oh, here we go. It was just like, hey, we're doing this. Like that was it. Like it was like the way you would say, oh, I got a new job. Oh, we're starting a new business. Okay. Oh.
Yeah, I like that outlook because I think for people maybe on my end of the spectrum who didn't grow up surrounded by that way of looking at money or starting a business, whereas we talked, I think the last episode or so. That my mom was actually an entrepreneur in hindsight. I just, for some reason, I don't know why I never viewed it as that, but she totally was.
Yeah.
But yeah, for someone like me, and we talked a little bit about my dad's mindset, people who are more used to like the 9 to 5, and they find comfort in that, which is like we said, you can totally find success in that too. You don't need to be an entrepreneur to find success, but that's interesting. Like for someone like me, that sounds scary as hell.
Yeah, it wasn't like an announcement.
Yeah, hey, but for you, it was like, this is just what you do.
Yeah.
If you want to do it, you just do it. Yeah. And I think that's really cool.
Yeah. And
it's not like, because I think other people that aren't familiar, I'm sure some people our generation, actually, this is something I've been feeling, but I've never really voiced it. I just find that it's common in older generations who do the 9 to 5, and that's what they're comfortable with. And I feel like our generation and the generation after us, your sister's generation, are kind of finding their own way in like the social media, making money off of social media.
The rise of gig work.
Yeah, which is super cool. Yeah. And those people might find that their parents or loved ones who are from an older generation are going, what are you doing? You can't be successful in that just because it's scary, which is so not true.
Yeah.
It might be more scary to, in some cases, sign away your life to a 9 to 5 that just stays the same always, so there's good and bad things to be said about both, but I think that's cool that based on your mindset and where you wanted to go, you would never experience that from your parents, them saying, questioning, you think you can really do that? Or,
even when I said like I was quitting my job at Amazon to flip houses, it was just like, okay, make sure you know what you're doing. Like that was it. Like it wasn't like a word of warning, it was like, be careful. That was really, it wasn't a cautionary. It was just,
like, oh, you sure you want to do that?
No, like, okay, cool.
Yeah, and that's really neat. I love that Do you think that support was pivotal in you doing that? Do you think it would have been more difficult if you didn't have?
I don't know if it was support. It was just, again, nonchalance.
Yeah,
it was just no one.
Well, not going against you. I mean,
I think if they had been, by then I was a grown man. I lived in the house, so I just didn't really matter. But yeah, I think it definitely made it easier.
Right.
Then they're just like, they didn't make it a thing like, oh, whoa, you can't do that. Like, no, I'm gonna do it. It's what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I kind of stopped listening when I dropped out of college.
Yeah.
To be honest, I guess that one has a pushback, but at that point you're a grown man. Like, I'm doing this, and this is the path. But and again too, it's never really talked about the inner workings of the company until they had sold it.
Yeah.
And so it's really.
So what do you know about that? Do you know anything about that?
Yeah. So and now in hindsight, I do know a lot. So my dad, before he passed away, we did talk a lot about it, kind of going through his life. Yeah, it was interesting. Okay. So,
and we obviously know a little. We grew to know a little bit more because we actually did jobs for them out of college. We both did some gig work for them on the contract. So
in high school, I helped.
You did, you did in high school. But me also, I got a little glimpse into what it was like working on the surveillance contracts, at least, which is pretty cool.
Those are fun.
That's on the contract side, not like the office business side.
Yeah. So maybe we can talk about them like building up and selling it.
Yeah, sure.
So obviously, they started from scratch and then they built it up, and they built it up pretty big to where their biggest contract was, the Marine Corps was going to build the Marine Raiders training program, like akin to Special Forces, right?
But for the Marines.
Yeah, and they contracted out that program to Silverback 7. And so my dad, they started that program because a lot of them had their training like, hey, we know what this needs, we'll do it for you.
Sure.
And so that was one of their bigger contracts where the money was already coming in. And then obviously, there was some personal stuff, like my parents got divorced, and that added a little bit of trickiness because there was ownership, this and that. I'm not going to dive too deep into that. But eventually they sold out. I think it was bought out by Patriot Group, something like that, which is a really big contract.
Which I think is based in Orlando, right?
Yeah. It was a really big buyout, and it's funny too because the value of a company is based on the money it produces, right? And so they bought out in 2018, and so the cash flow was good. We all know what happens. COVID 19 hits.
Oh, interesting.
They lose all the contracts because the base is shut down. And so if they had waited a year, the sales price would have been obliterated, would have been cut down by like.
So what timing that your dad and the other owners sold the company right before COVID happened.
Yeah.
And they probably wouldn't have been able to sell the company.
No. So, yeah.
That's wild.
I don't know the exact things, but I definitely know my dad walked away with like 7 figures easily.
Yeah, for sure.
And I don't know what the whole thing sold for, but they made out well. Like at that point, obviously he'd retired from the military. He was getting a lot of other income, like retirement there, but he was like done. Yeah. He was like, I'm going to just kind of sail those sunset.
Right. Super cool.
So that was a little bit of that. And obviously I know it's funner with the numbers. I'm sorry I don't have those.
Yeah.
But we had worked a little bit on inside the company too as contractors. That was a lot of fun. We did one where it was train surveillance, and one of them was I had to follow and track someone that was following you and my sister, right?
Yeah, well, yes, that was the second part of their training, but you weren't trying to find them while they were posted up in a hotel and training to watch us and take pictures of our nefarious activity.
Yeah, so it was a lot of that.
We were just in a mall parking lot driving around acting weird, and they had to spot us.
Yeah, so it was a lot of like weird and fun jobs like that.
Yeah.
So it was pretty interesting. And then another contract I had worked on that you weren't involved with, I had actually worked at the base at things like a role player and then like a judge, like you had to critique their efforts, whatever.
Sure.
For the Marines Raider selection course. And that was a fun one too. So really weird, really eclectic on your resume.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, what's this? Like,
yeah.
I mean, so
that is fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And the pay was good. And for daily
rates, oh my gosh, yeah.
I know for the surveillance one, I was getting like $400 a day.
Yeah.
And that wasn't because I was just the boss's son. Like,
no, that was the going rate. Yeah. And same here for the one that your sister and I did. I think it was $250 a day.
Yeah.
And we would do like the same iteration of what we did 5 times.
Yeah.
But sometimes it would just depend on the amount of candidates that were testing that day.
Yeah. So
the daily rate would stay the same. If we only had one candidate and we only had to do one run, which took us 10 minutes, we'd still get $250.
Yeah.
So it was nice.
It was fun. It was like it was a fun little extra thing to do.
Yeah.
Like, this is a fun job.
For sure. And I guess that's something, you talk about nepotism because you're the nepotism, right? Is when you have
my dad was like the anti-description of nepotism.
Yeah, he was the person that would probably make Bryce play goalie in a soccer game because
no one else wanted to play. Yeah, 100%.
But I would say that
I had the qualifications to work.
Yeah. Do you have much more to talk about the business line? Because I do have a quick caveat that comes into that. Just talking about nepotism. And that's always controversial for me because I feel like when you found a good employee that you really like and you can trust, why not? I think it would behoove you to hire on someone that's like them. If you like them. So I've never really understood nepotism. I understand, people can use it in the wrong way for sure and take advantage of that. But for me, why wouldn't you want to take on like-minded people if you have this proven concept of an awesome worker? Hopefully their kin is also. You know what I mean? What's wrong with that if you're paying them fairly against all of their competition? I don't know. I just think that
I agree with you 100%. I agree with you 100%.
That you should be discounted because of nepotism. That seems weird to me.
I think it's just because people always abuse the system. And it's always the ones that don't get the job. They'll say, oh, it's because of this.
Yeah.
It might sound shitty, but it's like, in my opinion, is no one ever questions, did you not get the job because you suck?
Yeah.
It's never that.
I know that is the thing. Yeah, holding yourself accountable.
Yeah.
Right?
So.
But yeah, that's just interesting to me.
Because I'm sure someone might have thought that, but all the coworkers there, a lot of them are older guys, but they got the job because they were special operations.
Yeah, and it just makes me think.
So
and you did too. That's why Bryce got to work. The hire Bryce myself and his sisters, we wouldn't qualify for the ones that Bryce got to do because we didn't have special operations training.
I don't want to think you got paid less because you were a girl.
No, no, I didn't get paid less.
No, it was a different. It was,
but it just so happens that we were not in spec ops, so
it was very, very male centered.
We couldn't qualify for the contracts that you were doing, which took more experience.
Yeah.
So the contracts we were doing, anyone off the street could do.
Yeah.
We were just doing them because we were available.
Yeah.
But anyone could qualify for those. No education. You just had to be 18 or older, I think.
Yeah.
But for yours, it was more like you needed the military background. You needed
I had tracked them as they tracked you, and I had to follow them around town.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
it was like
that's not something I could do. I don't have experience in doing that.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are other women that do have experience doing that, but we're not here to talk about the boy versus girl.
No, it was just talking about that was the experience of my dad's company.
So anyways, I guess all that to say is that's cool. We were both afforded a really cool experience because of someone we knew. Yeah. And I think that happens a lot in life. And I think that that's something people can take away too is, we were talking about last time asking people questions in your family about their experience and anything you can take away from their experience, but also people love to help. Not only do they like to share, they love to help.
They do.
So that's something I learned really quick is once I got my first, second, and third job, all from someone that I knew, I never asked anyone. It was rare that I went on the job market and just started applying. I started by email when I wanted a new job, emailing people that I knew.
Yeah. I think you should definitely, I think people get nervous to ask, but it's like, unless you're going to embarrass that person, obviously, get to work hard and not, let down the person to help you out. But, that's if the person worked hard and they have, a chip to give, hey, I can get you in this job. If that's their gift to give, let them give it. I mean, it's hard enough.
It's easy for them
It's silly to not take advantage of the advantages you have.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I think even when it says, it's not fair, well, that's not fair. I mean, that's a whole other tangent.
What I would say is don't not ask someone because it makes you feel guilty or weird. Yeah. I think that person would love to give you a job and would be so happy to do it. And then it's a win-win because then you have a job that you really want.
Well, obviously, the extreme of that, too, is if you ask for them help, you now need to account for, I can't let them down and make them look bad.
Yeah. I think
some people drop the ball there and they look and it makes you look bad too. If I refer to you and you end up being an idiot, it looks bad upon me. Absolutely. And I think that's why some people are hesitant, and you should be cognizant. If you feel like they're being hesitant, pull back. Ask once, whatever, but don't press.
For sure. And if someone wants to refer you, take that as a compliment.
Yeah.
Prime example, I referred a good friend. She knows who she is. I won't say her name, but because I think she's amazing. She's a badass. Yeah. And I never once in my mind thought that I wouldn't refer her. I think she's good at everything she does. So
and made you look good. It's a win-win.
Yeah, it's a prime example.
Because you're also helping out the company. You're leaving a hole. Yeah, so it's just hey, I'm leaving. I'm not staying, but here is someone that is also adequate. And can, fill my shoes and carry on. It's a win-win. No. So maybe that screws over someone that could have been applying, but they can.
I don't think so because
it's not a net zero.
Yeah, I don't think that just because you know someone and it's an advantage that you shouldn't apply. That's just weird to me. Yeah. I think. I think that's weird to me. So. Anyways, I think, is that really all you wanted to say about your dad's business? That was kind of,
I think that was, it seemed like a little bit of a longer story. I didn't want to lump it in with the restaurants because that, I think what they built was a $1 million company worth a lot. It was
that was a monstrosity.
It wasn't a different tangent. Yeah. It was a thing. They had a big office, a lot of employees, they had hundreds of contractors. So I think it was cool to address. Yeah. And it went cycle. It went full cycle. They started it and they sold out. Yeah. And then I was able to kind of get a little bit of the inner workings of it.
Yeah. if in the future that we find more inner workings that come upon us, we'll share them.
Yeah, I'm sure I'll be nowhere as we go.
Yeah. I think that kind of wraps it up today.
Yeah.
Next episode, we'll get back on track with where we're at in our
I forgot we rabbit holed.
Yeah, we totally rabbit holed with mentorship and
but it was worth it.
And I think it was worth it. So next time join us. We'll get back on track with analyzing money in a certain time period of our life as we move on to our first year of married life, and how that goes. So did you want to close this out?
No, that was all. Hey, thanks everyone for joining us. We'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.
Thank you guys for watching. If you liked this and want more, subscribe or comment below. We'll see you here next time on Iron Bay Research. Bryce and Kara signing out.